Welcome back, everybody. We're diving deep today, folks. Genesis, the final chapters, 47 through 50. We're talking Joseph. Yeah, you know the guy. But this time, we're going deeper. Legacy, reconciliation, and, well, how God works, sometimes in ways we don't expect.
Yeah, these chapters, they kind of shift, from one guy's story, Joseph's, to something much bigger. It's like we're watching a family, yeah, but their choices, they echo through history.
So it's more than just sibling rivalry. We're talking legacy, but on a massive scale.
Exactly. It all begins, Genesis 47, right? Jacob and all his family, they're in Egypt. Famine, tough times. And Joseph, he's powerful now, welcomes them in. But it's Pharaoh, his reaction, that's what gets me.
Okay, remind me. Pharaoh, what's his deal? Just being polite, or is there more to it?
He gives them Goshen, the best land. This isn't just good manners, back then strangers, not always welcome. This feels different, like God's hand is in it behind the scenes. Providence, some might call it.
So a famine, even that, could be part of a bigger plan. That's a tough one to wrap your head around.
It challenges us, yeah, how God works. But look through history, tough times, even tragedies. Sometimes good comes out of them. Think about it. You, me, we're in situations all the time. We can help someone, a friend needs to talk, someone's struggling, you lend a hand. Little things maybe, but part of something bigger. God's work in the world.
Okay, I see how these old stories, they connect to us now. But on to Genesis 48. Here's where it gets interesting. A twist, I bet, surprised folks back then. Jacob blesses Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. But Ephraim, the younger one, he gets put first. Manasseh, the older, that was a big deal back then, right?
Oh, huge. Firstborn son, double inheritance, the favored one. But Jacob, it's like he's inspired, breaks the rules. Not just family stuff, this is saying something. God chooses who he chooses. The unexpected sometimes, it's a theme, you see it all through the Bible.
Like, don't judge a book by its cover kind of thing. Don't underestimate anyone. Empowering, especially if you feel overlooked.
God sees potential where we see limits. He lifts up the underdog, the humble, the willing. Think David, shepherd boy turned king. Or the disciples, fishermen changing the world.
I like that. Inspiring. What's next in this story? I'm hooked on these twists.
Genesis 49, we get a peek into the future. Jacob, his final blessings, not just good luck sons. These are deep.
Yep.
Prophecies, you could say. Each son, his character, his tribe's destiny, all laid out.
Like we're watching the nation of Israel being born right there in the text.
Exactly. And choices, their impact, it's fascinating. Reuben, the oldest, yeah. His potential, dimmed by past mistakes, missed opportunities because of what he did. Then Judah, flawed, sure, but leadership qualities, the promise of kingship, a hint of what's to come, the line leading to Jesus eventually.
Let's talk about consequences.
Yeah.
But it's good to see God uses flawed people, takes our messes, makes something meaningful.
That's it. Jacob's blessings, they remind us. Choices we make today, they echo. Not just for us, but for generations to come. Makes you think, your own life, the legacy you're building. What are you doing today that'll shape tomorrow? Something to think about. We'll be back in a minute. Don't go anywhere. Genesis 50, the roller coaster continues.
We're back, and wow, those final chapters, Genesis, so much going on. Legacy, God's plan, and family drama, the heavy kind.
Yeah, and now, Genesis 50, things get, well, intense. Jacob, he passes away, and for Joseph's brothers, the past comes back to haunt them. Remember, they're the ones who, well, they sold him into slavery years ago.
Yeah, that's not something you forget, and now he's in charge. I'd be scared, I gotta say.
Totally understandable. Terrified they were that Joseph would, get his revenge. But then what happens? Forgiveness. Powerful stuff. You meant to hurt me, Joseph tells them, but God, he used it for good, saving lives, he says.
That's a big statement, not just, oh, it's okay. He's saying what they did, it fit into God's plan somehow. Is that like a thing in these texts?
It's a deep idea. God's sovereignty. He's in control. Even when things are messy, unfair, he brings good out of it. Joseph's just one example. The story of Job, suffering, but stays faithful. Or Jesus, the crucifixion, awful, but then foundation of the faith.
So we just accept whatever happens, even if it's bad, wrong, because it's all part of his plan. I don't know about that. What about choices, our free will?
Good question, and a tough one. Theologians, they've debated it forever. It's not about giving up, no. It's seeing that God can bring meaning even to the worst times. He doesn't cause suffering, but he can redeem it, use it for growth, healing, maybe even something better in the end.
Okay, then that makes more sense, I guess. But forgiveness, personally after someone betrays you like that. That's tough.
Put it in question. It's not saying the wrong was right. It's letting go of the bitterness, the anger, holding on. That just poisons you. Making space for healing, for grace, maybe even eventually becoming friends again.
Yeah. Easier said than done, though. How do you even start to forgive someone who hurt you that badly?
It's a process. Takes time. Choosing to let go of the pain, the anger, wanting to get even, giving those feelings to God, trusting this Irvin. He can heal, restore things, even when you can't see how. Think of it this way. Holding on to anger, it's like you're drinking poison, hoping the other person dies. Hurts you more than anyone.
That's a strong image. Forgiveness, it's not just for them, it's for you too, to be free of it.
Exactly, freedom. And, Joseph, he doesn't just forgive, he looks ahead, he's getting older, but talks about his brothers going back to the promised land. Like, I might not be there, but God will keep his promises. Your story's not over.
Hope, even when things are sad, uncertain, God's still working things out.
That's it. And remember, even with all his success in Egypt, Joseph, he never forgets who he is, his faith, the God of his ancestors, he passes it on.
Interesting. He could have, gone all Egyptian, right? Yeah. Fit in, abandon his past, why not?
Identity, belonging, that's important.
Yeah.
True success, it's not just power or money. It's holding on to what you believe, even when you're surrounded by something different.
Balancing act, almost. Embrace the new, but keep your core values. Lots of people deal with that today, right?
Yeah.
Global world, different cultures everywhere. But you said earlier, we can be a blessing to others, maybe in surprising ways. That applies here too.
Absolutely. Being a bridge between worlds, someone who understands both sides. Joseph, he shows it's possible to succeed but not lose who you are.
Helpful perspective, yeah. But we've only scratched the surface, I feel like, these final chapters. There's so much there. Should we take a moment and come back and really dig into this legacy, this hope for the future? Joseph, bridging the gap between two worlds. Success, but staying true to himself. That's encouraging, for anyone who's trying to do that today.
A good example for sure. But there's this whole other layer to his story we haven't really touched on. Legacy, the choices we make and how they affect, everyone who comes after.
You mean those blessings Jacob gave back in Genesis 49? That whole chapter, I gotta admit, it was a lot. Like a puzzle, trying to figure it all out.
Dense, yeah, but worth the effort. It's not just fortune telling. It's about seeing how actions, good or bad, they ripple outwards.
Give me an example. How do these blessings, how do they actually play out for Jacob's sons?
Take Reuben, the oldest, right. Impulsive guy, didn't think things through, cost him his birthright, the full blessing of it. Shows you even little choices, they can have big consequences down the line.
So it's not just the huge life-altering decisions. Everyday stuff matters too, for the legacy we leave.
Exactly. Then there's Judah. Flaws, yeah, but leadership potential, you could see it. Gets the promise of kingship. That line, it leads to David and then, ultimately to Jesus.
Now that's a legacy. But it sounds like even messed up people, God can still use them for good. So we don't have to worry so much about making mistakes.
No, choices still matter. But it does show God can redeem things, even our failures. It's about seeking forgiveness, learning the lesson, and keeping going, trusting.
So both are true. We're responsible, but God's grace is there too.
Exactly. And legacy, it's not just family, bloodlines. It's the mark you leave on the world. Teachers who inspire, mentors, artists who make you think, people fighting for what's right, they all leave a legacy, a ripple, spreading out further than they can see.
More than just like inheritance for your kids. It's making a difference any way you can.
Living with purpose, integrity, compassion, knowing those qualities they'll last, leaving things better than you found them.
Well, let's face it, not all of us are going to be famous, change the world in some big way. Does that mean our lives matter less? That we don't leave a mark?
No, not at all. Every kindness, encouragement you give, real connection with someone, that has a ripple effect. Might never know how far it goes. Being faithful in the little things, God uses those too. Even ordinary lives can be extraordinary.
So it's not about, fame or how many awards you win. It's who you are, how you treat people, the love you show, day in and day out.
Well said. And as we wrap up here, these final chapters of Genesis, there's one more thing I think is really important, that sense of hope, unshakable faith in what God has promised.
That future hope, yeah. Even when things are tough, we lose someone or it's uncertain, there's still reason to believe.
Yeah.
God's plan is still going on.
Yes. The covenant with Abraham, the promised land, all that. And hints of, a Messiah coming. These chapters, they're full of it. God is faithful, his plan wins, even if it takes time or happens in ways we don't get at first.
Like an anchor, keeps you steady when the storms hit. You might not know what's coming, but you know you're not alone. God's there every step.
That's a message for everyone, everywhere, no matter the time. Still true today. Even when life takes weird turns, challenges, setbacks, God's still writing the story. It's not over.
So as we finish up this deep dive, Joseph's life, these last chapters of Genesis, what's the one thing you want folks listening to take away?
Even in the midst of, betrayal, loss, uncertainty, God's working, redeeming our stories, making them part of his big plan. He's a God of second chances, unexpected turns, unwavering faithfulness. He invites us to join him, write a story full of hope, purpose, a legacy that goes on long after we're gone.
Powerful stuff. We'll leave you with that to think about, how it fits into your own life. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.